Hey everyone. Thailand's been making headlines, and I know a lot of you are curious about what's going on over there.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild.
We've got a ton of news to cover, from political shakeups to a possible casino boom.
Oh, and let's not forget that late-night drama in Pattaya.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
buckle up, because this is going to be a fascinating deep dive.
It's interesting how these stories, even though they seem so different, are all kind of connected.
Right. It really shows just how much Thailand is changing, and it's at this crossroads.
Exactly. Balancing tradition and ambition.
All right, so first up, we've got to talk about the Shinawatra family. They are making a serious comeback.
It seems like every week there's another headline about them.
I know. This week, it's all about Yingluck Shinawatra, the former prime minister who's been in exile.
Since 2017, yeah. And her brother, Thaksin, he just came back from exile earlier this year.
I know. It's crazy.
He's hinting that she might return too, maybe as early as April 2025.
During Songkran?
Possibly, yeah. Can you imagine that entrance?
That would be dramatic. Now, I know some people might not remember all the details, so can you remind us why Yingluck's in exile?
Of course. So she was convicted of negligence. It was all related to a rice pledging scheme during her time as prime minister.
Right, that was a huge deal. It was meant to help rice farmers.
By buying their crops at higher prices than usual.
Which sounds good in theory.
Yeah. But it ended up being really controversial. There were accusations of corruption, mismanagement, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, so that's why she's in exile. But here's where it gets interesting. She was recently acquitted of 2 other charges.
Yeah, that's fueled all this speculation that she might actually return.
And it's not just that. This would all be happening with her niece, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, as prime minister.
It's like a real-life political dynasty. I mean, Paetongtarn is Thaksin's daughter.
It's wild. What do you think this potential return could mean for Thailand politically?
Well, it's tough to say for sure. It could go a couple of ways, really. On one hand, you could see it as a step towards reconciliation, maybe healing some old wounds.
Bringing the country together.
Exactly. But on the other hand...
It could reignite those old divisions.
Exactly. It's a real gamble, and we'll have to see how it plays out.
And to make things even more interesting, Prime Minister Paetongtarn also got a phone call from Donald Trump this week.
Out of the blue.
I know.
Trump called Thailand a totally beautiful country and praised Paetongtarn's leadership.
Oh, that's nice. But what I'm really curious about is what this could mean economically.
Right. Beyond just the nice words.
Exactly. What kind of opportunities do you see coming from this renewed focus on the U.S.-Thai relationship?
Well, trade is a big one. The U.S. and Thailand have the oldest treaty alliance in Asia. It goes way back.
19th century, right.
Yep. But things have shifted, with the trade tensions between the U.S. and China.
Yeah, for sure.
So there could be some real opportunities for Thailand to get closer to the U.S. economically.
Thailand's known for its manufacturing, especially in the automotive and electronics industries.
Right. And if the U.S. is trying to move away from China for their supply chains, well, Thailand could be a perfect fit.
Commerce Minister Pachain Oripsafan seems to think so too. He said he's super optimistic about Thai exports to the U.S.
It'll be interesting to see how that develops. Now, before we get too serious...
Yeah, let's lighten the mood.
We've got to talk about this crazy story from Pattaya. It's classic Pattaya, really.
Oh, yeah. The British tourist who got into a fight. It's one of those truth is somewhere in the middle kind of stories.
Totally. So picture this. Late night, a British tourist is found injured on the street in Pattaya. Broken nose, bruises.
Sound like a rough night.
Yeah. Some witnesses say they saw him being pulled out of a pickup truck by 2 Thai men.
Oh, wow.
But then those 2 men turned themselves in to the police.
What?
Yeah, and they claimed self-defense. They said the tourist was drunk and aggressive.
Oh, okay. That changes things a bit.
And apparently the tourist was so drunk that he couldn't really tell the police what happened.
Classic he said, she said situation.
Exactly. And the police are still investigating. It just goes to show, Pattaya is known for its nightlife, but it can get a little wild sometimes.
It's a good reminder to be careful out there. All right, let's shift back to politics. Thaksin Shinawatra might be back in Thailand, but his legal troubles aren't over.
I'm not even close. There's this case accusing him and the Pheu Thai Party,
his daughter's party,
of trying to overthrow the monarchy. It's a really serious accusation.
Wow.
It's saying they violated Section 49 of the Constitution.
Which is all about the king as head of state, right?
Exactly. Anything that tries to undermine the democratic system with the king as head of state.
So what's happening with this case now?
Well, the Attorney General's office decided not to pursue it. said there wasn't enough evidence.
Okay, but it sounds like it's not over.
Nope. The Constitutional Court wants more evidence, and they're going to be looking into it.
So even though he's back, this legal issue could still cause problems for his daughter's government.
For sure. It's a big question mark hanging over everything.
Now, last but not least, we have to talk about the possibility of casinos in Thailand. This is huge.
I know. It's been talked about forever, and it seems like the government's finally going for it. They want to legalize casinos by 2025.
And not just any casinos, right? They're talking about these big entertainment complexes.
Yeah, like a whole experience.
I'm picturing something like those giant resorts in Vegas.
Casinos, hotels, restaurants, shopping malls, everything all in one place.
Exactly.
And they're really highlighting the economic benefits.
I mean, analysts are predicting Thailand could make $9.1 billion annually.
That's a lot of money.
I know. It's no wonder big names like MGM Resorts and Galaxy Entertainment are already showing interest.
Right. They've even started talking about potential locations.
Yeah.
Bangkok, Pattaya, Chiang Mai, Phuket.
Yeah, all the tourist hotspots.
Makes sense.
But gambling's been illegal in Thailand for a long time.
Almost 100 years. But the government's saying that legalizing and regulating casinos will actually help them control illegal gambling.
Keep the money in Thailand.
Yep. And boost the economy. It's a big gamble, though.
In more ways than one.
Exactly. There are so many unknowns. Will they get the investment they're hoping for? What about the social impact?
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
Welcome back. You know, as we were saying before the break, the possibility of Yingluck Shinawatra returning, it's really got everyone talking.
It's a huge deal for Thai politics. I mean, the Shinawatra family, they've been so powerful.
But also so much controversy, so much exile.
Exactly. It's hard to picture Thai politics without them, and yet...
Here we are, on the brink of their return.
It's crazy. And their legacy, it's really a mix of progress, but also upheaval.
Definitely. Think about Yingluck's time as Prime Minister.
Yeah, she was popular, but it was a really divided time, too.
Exactly. She brought in those social welfare programs, really focused on the economy in a way that appealed to rural voters.
Right. People really responded to that.
But her critics were really vocal, too.
Accusing her of corruption, nepotism.
Especially with that rice pledging scheme.
Yeah, that's something I think we need to dig into a bit more. Because it's so important to understanding Yingluck's situation. On the surface, it sounds like a good idea.
Supporting rice farmers, buying their crops at higher prices.
It's helping them out.
But in the long run, it just wasn't sustainable financially.
And there was all those allegations of corruption within the program itself.
Yeah, it became a huge mess.
And that's what led to her conviction, right? The 5-year prison sentence.
Even though she left the country before the verdict.
And now, years later, some of the charges have been dropped.
It really raises the question, what happens if she comes back?
Right. Because legally, that sentence is still there.
It's a bit of a mystery. Would she be arrested right away? Would there be some kind of deal, a pardon, or maybe even new legal challenges?
And the political scene has changed so much since she left.
Oh, absolutely. The military coup in 2014,
The new constitution.
which some people say was designed to limit the Shinawatra family's power.
But then, here we are. The Pheu Thai Party is back in power.
With Thaksin's daughter as prime minister.
It's like something out of a movie.
It makes you wonder, is Yingluck's return part of some bigger plan?
To solidify the family's comeback?
Maybe. But there's also the question of how the Thai people would react.
Would they welcome her back? Would there be protests?
And what about her political rivals?
She's made some powerful enemies over the years.
Exactly. Her return could easily lead to more unrest.
It's really a divisive issue.
Some people see the Shinawatras as corrupt, while others see them as heroes.
No matter what happens, it's going to have a huge impact on Thailand.
Absolutely. Now, switching gears a bit, let's talk about another big change. Legalized casinos.
Yeah, this has been debated for years.
And now it seems like it's actually happening.
They're aiming for 2025 to open the first ones.
And they're not messing around. These entertainment complexes they're talking about.
They're not just little casinos tucked away somewhere.
Not at all. We're talking big integrated resorts, like what you see in Vegas.
Casinos, hotels, restaurants.
The whole package.
They're really going all out.
Well, the potential economic benefits are huge.
We talked about those billiards in revenue. That's got to be tempting for the government.
Of course. And it's not just the gambling itself. It's jobs, tourism, investment in all sorts of industries.
Construction, hospitality.
It could be a real boost, but...
There's always a but, isn't there?
Right. There are downsides to consider, too.
Like gambling addiction.
It's a serious issue, and making casinos more accessible could make things worse.
And what about the potential for crime?
Yeah, casinos can attract money laundering and other illegal activities.
So how do they balance the economic benefits with those risks?
That's the million-dollar question.
It sounds like they'll need really strong regulations and enforcement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they'll need to make sure that the benefits of the casinos are spread out, that it's not just a few people at the top who profit.
So it's a risky move, but it'll be interesting to watch.
Definitely a high-stakes gamble, both literally and figuratively.
So we've got these two huge stories, both with the potential to completely change Thailand. Do you see any connection between them?
That's an interesting thought. On the surface, they seem pretty separate. The return of the Shinawatras, the casinos.
But maybe there's something deeper going on.
Well, I think both stories kind of highlight this tension between tradition and modernity that Thailand is facing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Think about it. The Shinawatras, even with all the controversy, they represent a populist force.
They challenge the traditional power structures in Thailand.
Exactly. They've always had that strong support from rural voters. They're seen as champions of the everyday person.
And the casinos.
Well, it's all about economics, right?
Right.
But it's also a big shift away from traditional values.
Gambling has been illegal for so long, partly because of religious reasons.
So, in a way, both stories are about pushing boundaries, testing the limits of what's acceptable in Thai society.
I like that. It's like Thailand's figuring out who it wants to be in the 21st century.
Exactly. And the outcomes of both these stories will have a big impact on the country's future, both socially and politically.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens next. This is a really exciting time for Thailand.
It is. But we're not done yet. There's still more to unpack.
Oh, right. We still need to talk about those legal challenges facing Thaksin and the Pheu Thai Party.
And we can't forget about those U.S.-China trade tensions and what they mean for Thailand.
Plus, all those details about the casinos. How will they actually work? What will the impact be? There's so much to discuss. All right, welcome back to our deep dive. We've been talking all about Thailand, and there's still so much to cover.
We've only scratched the surface, really.
Exactly. So let's jump right back in. We left off talking about that lawsuit against Thaksin Shinawatra and the Pheu Thai Party.
Yeah, that's a big one. Accusing them of trying to overthrow the monarchy, it's a pretty serious charge.
And even though the Attorney General decided not to pursue it, it's still with the Constitutional Court, right?
Right. They're asking for more evidence, and then they'll decide whether to move forward or not.
So this could still be a problem for Thaksin, even though he's back in Thailand.
Definitely. And for his daughter's government, too.
The timing is pretty interesting, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Thaksin comes back from exile, his daughter becomes prime minister, and bam.
This lawsuit pops up.
Makes you wonder if it's more about politics than actual legal concerns.
Yeah, could be some political maneuvering going on.
It wouldn't be the first time in Thai politics.
So what are the chances that the Constitutional Court actually takes this case further?
It's hard to say, but if they do, it could have some pretty big consequences.
Like what?
Well, in the worst case scenario, they could dissolve the Pheu Thai Party.
Whoa, that would be huge.
Yeah, it would likely trigger new elections and could really destabilize things politically.
Even if it doesn't go that far, this whole thing could still hurt the Shinawatra family's reputation.
Absolutely. Makes it harder for them to govern effectively. Yeah. It just adds to that whole uncertainty surrounding their return.
Okay, so let's move on to Thailand's relationship with the U.S. Things seem to be getting a lot cozier, especially after that phone call between Prime Minister Paetongtarn and Trump.
Yeah, that was a pretty symbolic moment. And I think it signals some real changes in the relationship.
I mean, both sides talked about strengthening the alliance between the two countries.
The oldest treaty alliance in Asia.
And with all the tension between the U.S. and China, Thailand probably sees this as a good opportunity to get closer to the U.S. economically.
For sure. The U.S. wants to rely less on China for manufacturing, and Thailand could really benefit from that.
We were talking before about Thailand's strength in automotive and electronics. What are some specific ways that Thai companies could take advantage of this situation?
Well, for example, in the auto industry, Thailand is already a big hub for Japanese car makers, but maybe we'll start seeing more U.S. companies setting up factories there.
Creating jobs and boosting the economy.
Exactly. And in electronics, there's a huge demand for components in the U.S., and Thailand already produces a lot of them. So Thai companies could get more contracts from U.S. companies.
It seems like a good opportunity, but are there any risks for Thailand in aligning itself so closely with the U.S.?
Oh, definitely. They have to be careful not to upset China. China is a huge trading partner for Thailand and a powerful player in the region. It's a delicate balancing act.
Okay, so last but not least, let's circle back to those casinos. It's a really ambitious plan, but I'm still not sure if it'll actually work. What do you think are the biggest hurdles they'll have to overcome?
Well, first of all, gambling have been illegal in Thailand for so long. There's still a lot of social stigma around it. They'll need to change people's minds if they want this to be successful.
And then there are the concerns about problem gambling, money laundering.
They'll need really strict regulations to address those issues. And they need to make sure that the benefits of the casinos, the money, the jobs, are spread out fairly, not just going to a select few.
It's a tall order, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. This whole casino thing is a huge gamble in itself.
No doubt. All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive into Thailand.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We talked about the Shinawatra family, Yingluck's possible return, the casino plans, the relationship with the U.S.
And even that Pattaya brawl.
It's been a whirlwind, but what really stands out to me is how much Thailand is changing. It's at a turning point.
Yeah, it's facing so many challenges, but also so many opportunities. And I think what's really impressive is the resilience of the Thai people. They always seem to find a way to move forward.
Exactly. There's a real sense of optimism there, even amidst all the uncertainty. It's inspiring.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and that you'll keep exploring this amazing country.
Until next time, keep those minds curious.